Even though you lean towards feeling that this is more likely a natural occurrence, we always felt that you've got to keep an open mind.
Can we talk for a second about that criticism about Lin-Manuel? That really upsets me. I
Like,
mean, it's like
what do you make of that?
you can never do right, it seems.
If you're a white person, you can't wait to get super tan, and you can't say Black Lives Matter, and you're not an ally, and you can't stand for your Black, brown, indigenous, people of color, friends, and family, then do everyone a favor, and tanning is not for you.
Shooting by someone who committed the shooting only after he confirmed that the players were Republican. So the FBI still doesn't exactly know what that shooter was up to.
Let's go, let's go.
That is the fantastic summit in Geneva, Switzerland, as Russian agents beat the hell out of the combined press, the assembled press, during a photo spree, a scrum, a bilat. This is where the guys sit down. This is Putin and Biden sitting down. Anthony Blinken is there, and the Zavalny is there for the Russians. And they let the press in for a couple of minutes to take it for a photo op and to shout out a couple of questions. It got out of hand. The guys, the reporters were pushing each other. So Russian security was way all over them. They kept saying, "Can you move?" No, can no move. It was really salty. Here's some of the sounds from that moment. It gets louder. Uh-oh. Stop. They can't get a shot. So they keep asking the American photogs, or not limited to the American photogs, but the photogs are asking Russian Ivan Drago security to step out of the way so they can shoot both people, and the guys are not moving. They're saying no. This is... Freedom of the press may be a different thing in Moscow. I'm sorry, in Russia, yes.
Can't do this.
Can't do this.
Go away, please. Can you move?
Go away, please. The Russian thugs tell the press.
Go away, please. Okay, stop.
Where am I going?
Go away, please. It's over? Yes, it's over. It's over. Guys, it's over.
Love it. Go away.
I told you, go away, please.
Uh-oh.
Go away. Go away. I ask you, go away, please.
It's very possible this person saying to go away, please, has killed a man.
Open door, please. Я вас просил.
That was you touch each other, to which Biden, trust each other, to which Biden nodded.
Yeah.
And the administration dove out a press release immediately saying, no, that wasn't...
He was nodding in general, not
right.
to that question. There were so many questions being shouted. He couldn't tell which one was being asked, so he just nodded. Yeah, well, maybe if the reporters weren't having to shout out random questions because he was actually doing a real presser where he took questions and answered them, maybe then he would be able to hear which question was being asked.
Let's go.
I don't know who's getting manhandled there.
Go back, please. Go back, please.
You hate to see it.
What are we doing? I got you. Let's go. Get out. We need to go. Let's go. Out.
They toss him.
Did we get that other door open? What? Let's go. Just over here, guys.
So there they go. Off they go. The end of this footage shows them. They get 86 right out of the building. It shows them just trudging through the parking lot, battered and bruised at the hands of the Russian thugs of Putin's muscle. And Biden, at one point, somebody shouted something about the First Amendment, whatever, and Biden rolled his eyes. He was not necessarily emoting in the way you'd want somebody to, especially when you're are they the fourth estate, Alice?
Mm-hmm.
You know what the first estate is?
No.
It's the clergy. You know what the second estate is?
You
know how I know this?
How do you know?
Because I have a master's.
Because you were watching the French Revolution.
Yes, I speak now perfect French.
Is it the government?
Nope.
The king?
No.
I don't know. What are the states?
I know things now, Alice.
I know.
This
you
is fantastic.
Do. Wow. Okay, tell us.
The first estate is the clergy, who could tax the citizens with their own taxes autonomously.
Okay.
The second estate was the nobility.
Okay.
And those are people, obviously, it doesn't include the king. He's his own deal.
Okay.
Those are people related to the king, other royals,
right.
in all the provinces. Who
the
could
House of Lords, basically.
Yes, who could also tax the citizenry with their own set of taxes, willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And the third estate is everybody else, including...
the hoi polloi.
Hoi polloi and successful businessmen, whatever, but you still weren't a made person. You were the third estate. And so the problem is that the third estate made up 95% of the country's population, and they were a little sick of being taxed by the other two estates. But that's not what today is about, Alice. So fourth estate is the press. You're telling me who came up with that? I wonder.
I don't know.
There's no way to. Are you already tired of me? Today's a great day.
Today is a great day.
We have a massive adventure we're going on tomorrow where we're going to have a remote broadcast somewhere, by the way. We'll see where we go. We can't disclose exactly at this point. But I look forward to it. In fact, are you lethargic?
No.
You look so beautiful today, but now you're either hating me right now or with lethargic.
I'm thinking about all the stuff that I have to do before we go on this trip because you have to prepare one person for the trip and I have to prepare 5 people for the trip.
Well, you could let me prepare the 5 people for the trip and I'll just do it in a different way. In other words, they're ready.
You do it in the way where you grab a handful of clothes out of the laundry. It's like 3 socks.
That's fine.
1 pair of underwear and 4 t-shirts and no pants. And that's like what that kid gets to go on the trip.
Minimalist? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So the things in Geneva, in the summit, today with the press thing is fantastic because there is nothing the press likes to talk about more than how badly they're treated. So this is, I assume, going to remind them of how they were treated when Trump was there.
Well, I can tell you that if Trump had had a summit with Putin and Putin's people had been pushing around the press, we would have never heard the end of it.
Yes.
They would have basically been tortured and thrown in prison, basically.
And if
Trump had been anywhere near a situation like that.
Yes, and there would be no containing the smile on the 45th president's face as Jim Acosta was taken down by these Russian thugs. But there was also... Biden had an odd situation in one of these breakout rooms in Geneva where he was talking. I don't even know what happens here, Alice. Can you explain this? I'll play the audio and you tell. I don't know what happens here, but he blew us a fuse or something.
And I've said before, and I apologize to repeat. I didn't first tell you were taken by a massive security advisor. I'm leaving out a lot of people here. I apologize. I'm going to get in trouble. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But there's a lot that is happening. I used to.
There's a lot going on before he starts to say anything there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, needless to say.
But he met a lot of people, and he's going to get in trouble for chatting about it when he's supposed to be having a real conversation.
So the White House reporter for the AP, Jonathan Lemire, said, Putin looked at me but ignored my shouted questions as if he feared Navalny or what he would do if Ukraine joined NATO. Biden, that's kind of editorializing, Mr. AP. Biden nodded his head yes when asked if he trusted Putin. And Biden laughed when this pooler rolled his eyes and shrugged at the chaos of the media scrum. Let's see. On Fox has coverage as well of the media scrum today. Press scrum at Biden-Putin summit descends into chaos after shoving match, physical encounters with security. The media followed Biden and Putin as they met in front of the Villa Lagrange, and again the two leaders sat down before their talks began. Press coverage saw an initial bit of ruckus when one reporter wound up blocking the cameras and refused to get out of the way when asked to step aside. According to the White House press pool, reporters from both countries rushed to get into the building and shout questions at Biden and Putin. Only a fraction of the media was allowed into the room with the two leaders, and the situation went wild as more reporters tried to get inside, and there ended up being a physical confrontation of sorts between the media, security, and Swiss officials. Fox News' Peter Doocy was there, says, Russian security was pulling back the rope to get them out. Lots of shoving and grabbing, and it was extremely aggressive. The Russian security pulled on our clothes and shoved us as we tried to stay in the room. I've heard from somebody who works at the White House that they were lined up about 10 minutes beforehand to get in, and that as things kind of started to deteriorate in the room, the Swiss, who are the hosts for the U.S. and Russia, the neutral party here, were trying to get people organized, trying to get people in line, and it didn't work. Can you stop pushing me the audio? You just heard that. It went here and there. Oh, dang. Alice.
What?
I am recording this in mono.
Oh. I believe I'm recording it in stereo if you want it.
Or should I just put this up in mono, you know?
Well, will it go into both people's headphones?
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll copy this and then paste it. So you won't get the sensation of, things moving. You won't get the Doppler effect in your head as you're listening to this. So those are the happenings right now in Russia. I don't expect really nothing can happen. There's not going to be a real post-presser like there was with Trump. The summit meeting is over.
Well, Biden bowed out quickly, but Putin took a lot of questions. He went for more than an hour, was my understanding.
Yeah, I saw one where he was asked again about his joy of killing reporters, and he went back to the Capitol riots and the fact that there's more. That was his go-to again and again and again, that there's more violence, chaos, etc. in the United States. That's what I saw so far. But one of the problems is that, like, we have no leverage on Putin right now. We can certainly sanction the hell out of him, but we haven't done something like retaliate for cyber attacks. He's got all these cyber attacks. This huge one, the one that happened about 4 months ago, and then all these ransomware attacks. And for Putin, that's perfect, because all of those things, all of these attacks, and all of these parties out there being out there, whether or not they're satellite actors of the Russian government,
right,
or they're freelancers in the area, those are all leverage. Those are chits on the table that Putin can say, well, I can maybe go after actor B if you do this. Well, I could possibly go after the guy who screwed up your pipeline if you do this. That's a pipeline over here, which the Russians hacked as they're building one over there with the Germans. But we don't really have...
Well, Biden already gave it all to them. Everything they already wanted. So he lifted the sanctions on the pipeline people, and he...
The START 2 treaty.
Right, he gave them the START 2 treaty. There's no...
Which had expired, which you want the Russians to earn, but you don't go right back into it because the language wasn't sufficient to cover new technologies. So you want to limit the Russians building nukes, and they want to limit us building nukes. But times have changed, and some of the wording is inadequate, but it doesn't matter. Biden went in and signed it immediately.
Right.
So we'll see. I don't, I'm not overly optimistic about that. But, we're hearing now that they're getting ready to let us know that July 4th, the party for the ages, Alice, much like July 4th in 1789? No, 1770. What's the big July 4th celebration?
1776.
Ah, right. Okay. Sorry, my study centers on France.
What's the French Revolution? 91?
No, I think it was 89.
Okay.
But okay. So yes, we're gonna have a big party because we beat coronavirus, and even though we thought we could just have small gatherings, and this is I'm stealing this take from the people from the Commentary podcast. They're now saying that we're going to have huge celebrations everywhere. So
wow.
Biden has delivered this to us.
Can we be back on the Esplanade, honey?
You know what? Biden might have made it so we can now.
Wow.
You know?
What a guy.
Biden and Anthony Fauci, who's back. Fauci is back officially, and he has downloaded a new reality in which he always said, always was adamant about the lab leak.
People forget that, but if you go back then, even though you lean towards feeling that this is more likely a natural occurrence, we always felt that you've got to keep an open mind. All of us. We didn't get up and start announcing it, but we've always said keep an open.
We didn't get up and start announcing it. I mean, why would we do that?
I mean, in fact, we announced the opposite.
Right,
but
we got up and announced that. But I mean, why? I mean, it's my capacity is not to get up and announce things. I'm not known for wanting to be near a microphone or anything.
In mind and continue to look. So I think it's a bit of a distortion to say that we deliberately suppress that.
You see how this guy survives? Why he's been in Washington? How he's been in Washington now for 83 years?
Because he always says exactly
what the
newest thing is.
A little bit of a distortion to suggest that. Yep, doublespeak. All he is a double-speaking bureaucrat. That is it. Who had really, I hate to use this, Alice, but remember that you had one job? Mr. Disease Know-It-All really needed to have spent the last about 10 years making sure that the stockpiles were full, and also maybe making sure that the FDA was ready to test en masse if we get hit by a virus.
Right.
Isn't a contagion or virus in the name of Fauci's job title somewhere?
Infectious diseases, yeah.
So if not him, Mr. Been there, before most of the other people in the government healthcare were born, then who was supposed to make sure?
Well, right. I mean, the thing is that that's why you supposedly have these nonpartisan government bureaucrats there, is so that you don't just have Trump come in who doesn't know what he's doing and be in charge of the pandemic response all by himself.
Right.
You have him able to rely on officials in our government who've been there for years and years and know what preparations we have ready, what our stockpiles are, what we can do in the event of something like this. So, that's supposed to be the idea of what government is there for. But I would say that Fauci has not necessarily over the past 15 months made a really great case for how well that's worked.
No, you're exactly right. You're right. Administrations come and go. The winds of politics blow through, and they look different, and they sound different, and they carry with it different factors.
Yeah, and we don't expect the people we elect to necessarily be experts in every single thing when they walk in the door.
Exactly.
That's why we have people there.
And we also expect them to be craven politicians with built-in agendas and all sorts of stuff. These people are, by and large, lawyers.
Right.
So we expect them to act like politicians. I think the Founding Fathers expected them to act like politicians. And so the executive branch... You put some smart people in and around the executive branch. So when in 2009 or 2010, whenever the swine flu came in, and you depleted the stockpiles, and Congress at that time is not going to do anything is not going to make a priority of it, because they're, at that point you got Congress fighting each other, both Boehner and Pelosi. They had other battles, remember?
Right.
Amongst other, they had huge budget battles then, and healthcare battle then, and this and that, and all those other battles. So while they're in their own scrum, in their political mosh pit in Congress, that's why the smart people need to make sure that all the housekeeping is done, like Fauci with the stockpiles. Now, somebody may tell me, well, technically that wouldn't be Fauci who going to... No. He's the guy. He's Mr. Healthcare Point Man guy. He's the one who had to, because the stockpiles weren't there, was compelled to lie to us and steer us away from certain medical equipment.
Well, right, and who in January was telling us there was no threat from COVID and we didn't have to worry, and not to worry because he was in charge.
Right.
We in the public health community are preparing for any eventuality. This is our job. We're preparing for it. No need for the American public to be concerned. And that's, Trump wasn't muzzling him or something. That's what he actually said and thought.
Right. And so this newest turn, which is is more just gaslighting, which is something Fauci constantly does, is just even more craven. The fact that nobody's thinking of, and I understand Biden doesn't want to do it because this is supposed to look like the conclusion to the coronavirus,
Right.
which was brought to us by Joe Biden's great work in action in developing the vaccine, which he did.
Yeah, there was no vaccine until he and the good doctor got there.
Right, and coming up with a vaccine plan. There was no plans when they got in whatsoever.
No.
But that's politics. It's a scumbaggy recreation, and that's just it. But just so you know, Fauci's out there again telling you you're wrong. He always thought it was a lab leak, which is great. Oh, all right, Alice. What do we go to now? Do we go to co-eds in bikinis or my friend Lin-Manuel Miranda being attacked again, and finally somebody speaking up on his behalf, who's going to be attacked right now as well?
Oh yeah, she'll have apologized within 48 hours probably.
Yes, this is Rita Moreno, who you may know from West Side Story, such contemporary hits as West Side Story. And she was on with Colbert. Now, you guys remember how this has all gone. What's the thing called?
In the Heights.
In the Heights, made by John Chu, the director. And he's in trouble because the black Latino people weren't dark enough. Afro-Latino people weren't black enough. So he self-immolated. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda, as we told you yesterday, he also, out of shame, prostrated himself in front of them and committed hara-kiri. And now Rita Moreno says, no, this stops here. My buddy Lin-Manuel Miranda has taken enough.
Can we talk for a second about that criticism about Lin-Manuel? That really upsets me.
Oh yeah, for the people who don't know, your friend and ours, Lin-Manuel Miranda,
he also co-produced my documentary. Yeah.
There's been some criticism for the lack of Afro-Latino people.
Oh, Colbert does not like having to do this dance.
In the Heights, the movie adaptation of his play.
I mean, it's like
what do you make of that?
You can never do right, it seems. This is the man who literally has brought Latino-ness and Puerto Rican-ness to America. I couldn't do it. I mean, I would love to say I did, but I couldn't. Lin-Manuel has done that really single-handedly, and I'm thrilled to pieces, and I'm proud that he produced my documentary.
And so are you saying that...
So here's where Colbert tries to bail her out, because he can see this is going in a bad direction.
He can see that he's about to cancel Rita Moreno on his show. The epitaph reads, 2021, died at the Colbert Show.
You may understand where people's concerns come from, that perhaps it's misplaced in criticizing him in this.
Well, I'm simply saying, can't you just wait a while and leave it alone?
Uh-oh. That is it. That was the famous last words of Rita Moreno.
There's a lot of people who are Puerto Rican who are also...
You can roll your R's all you want, Rita. This is not good.
From Guatemala, who are dark and who are also fair. We are all colors in Puerto Rico. And this is how it is. And it would be so nice if they hadn't come up with that and left it alone just for now. I mean, they're really attacking the wrong person.
Ooh.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is not what you're supposed to say. That's pulling the ladder up. You're not supposed to tell black people to wait their turn because we're representing Hispanic people right now. That's not allowed.
And the thing is
so people are all over Twitter saying that she's repeating the talking points of white supremacy and anti-blackness, that the reason she's had a career is because she's white passing and now she's trying to pull the ladder up after her and everything else. So, yeah, she's going to apologize pretty soon, I would think. I mean, maybe not. Maybe she's tougher than some of these other people, but I doubt it. And probably since Lin-Manuel Miranda is involved in her current project, he's probably going to call her up and tell her to apologize, too. But I like how Colbert was like, wait, you mean you agree with their point, but you just think that they're attacking the wrong person who's not really responsible for the lack of representation? Or she's like, no, I mean, they should shut up and wait. This movie isn't about them.
Oh.
White passing Latinx people, colorism and pigmentocracy.
There you go. Pigmentocracy, Alice. When Big Mint took over, the Tic Tac Rebellion, I call that, Alice.
Mm-hmm.
Get it?
Mint. I get it.
Get it? Tic Tac instead of Tic Toc. You get it?
I get it.
The Tic Tac Rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
The Tic Tac Rebellion. So what do we call this episode? Do we call this the Tic Tac Rebellion or the Bloody Scrummit? What do you think?
Whatever you think, honey. Whatever you think. But I do think this is interesting how this like intersectionality thing has started to like pit different minority groups against each other. And in particular, like blackness is the end all be all. Like anything that goes against blackness.
Before we go any
loses.
further into that, Alice, I think that we should frame this in a different way. This pits different progressive minority groups.
Right, that's true.
Together. Because you have to be a good progressive to even enter this realm. If you're just somebody who's working for a living and is generally a decent human being, is not navel gazing constantly, you are immune to this.
Yeah.
Happily.
Yeah. So, but it is interesting to me because there's definitely, you're Mr. French Revolution now. You've seen how, like, the people who are involved in the revolution are not immune from getting guillotined.
Oh, right. No.
Just because you've been ratting people out as enemies of the revolution does not mean that you're safe.
No. If you're a theologian, then you're especially familiar with the rules and regulations. So if you go afoul of the rules, it's even more of a serious infraction, and yes, you will be ushered to the guillotine.
Yeah, so I want to read you a little bit of this story. This isn't from J Weekly, the Jewish News of Northern California, because I think this is going to be interesting to see what Biden's education department does here, because listen to this. 2 Jewish mental health professionals at Stanford's on-campus counseling clinic have filed workplace discrimination complaints after what they call severe and persistent anti-Jewish harassment from colleagues. So you're wondering, is it neo-Nazis? Who could it be? Dr. Ronald Albuquerque, a psychiatrist and associate professor in the medical school, and Sheila Levin, a therapist specializing in eating disorders, describe being pressed into joining a whiteness affinity group by staffers with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program, being told they were privileged and seeing anti-Semitic incidents downplayed. The university responded inadequately to their concerns made over the course of a year, thereby fostering a hostile and unwelcoming environment for Jewish employees working for Stanford's Counseling and Psychological Services. So this was filed with the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing. They allege violations of state and federal laws, including Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So the trouble began in November 2019 when employees were asked to join weekly seminars run by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program within the clinic, formed earlier that year.
They were what to run weekly seminars?
They were asked to join weekly seminars.
Okay.
So most programs and departments at Stanford have internal DEI programs, as do universities across the Bay Area and around the country. The initiatives aim to help the Psychological Services Office provide care rooted in cultural humility and social justice values.
So the DEI, in every instance in the United States, is there to audit you for inadequacies.
Right.
And shock of all shocks, they will find some.
So Albuquerque said that he was excited and supportive of the DEI program at first. As a psychiatrist working on a campus like Stanford, where people from all over the world come to study, teach, and do research, it only helps to increase one's knowledge base about other cultures and religions. But once the DEI program began, his views soured. Before their first meeting, CAP staff were asked to read White Fragility. Albuquerque said the assignment did not appeal to him as an introduction to DEI training because it is pessimistic about race relations and argues that all white people are fragile on race issues no matter what. When he expressed that view, several coworkers verbally harassed and intimidated him. At an early meeting, he was berated for not having read the book, thereby co-opting the meeting because other participants had to explain the book to him. When I spoke up, probably 5 or 6 people jumped on me.
Alice, White Fragility was written by this person. 1 second. I think it should start playing. There we go.
I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to a room filled with white progressives. When I do a caucus group or something and the white people are afraid I might think they're racist. I think you're racist. I do. I think I am too. Right? White progressives can be the most difficult for people of color. White progressives do indeed uphold and perpetrate racism. When I first applied to be that...
So there you go. So if in case you wonder what the theme of the training is.
Yeah, so to discuss the book, they split up the staff by race, facilitating space for white staff to process their reaction to it. The group was named the Whiteness Accountability Group / Book Club.
I think that was actually in the documentary I watched last night.
So no affinity group was ever created for members of Jewish ancestral identity, the complaint alleges. As a result, there was no space for the Jewish participants to safely express their lived Jewish experience. Albuquerque said he was uncomfortable with the discussion groups reserved for white people and refused to join them. As a gay Jewish man, I have my own perceptions on white supremacy in the history of this country. He said, my family has had to contend with white supremacy, he said, adding that he has family members who died in the Holocaust. Yes, I would say that counts as having had to deal with white supremacy.
Yes.
He also did not want to join the whites only group, telling a DEI member that as a Jewish person, Levin did not also want to join the whites only group, telling a DEI member that as a Jewish person, she does not feel an affinity with white identity. She said the individual responded that this was the direction the clinic was going and she needed to participate if she wanted to be a part of the collegial environment. They allege a pattern of anti-Jewish bias within the program as well. The complaint cites a DEI seminar during which they were discussing their concerns following a racist and anti-Semitic Zoom bombing incident 4 days earlier when somebody bombed a staff Zoom meeting and used the N-word and swastikas were shared during the student government meeting. At the follow-up meeting, the complaint says, the DEI committee members addressed the racist anti-black content but did not mention anti-Semitism or the swastikas. When Albuquerque asked about the omission, he was told that the committee decided to omit the mention of anti-Semitism so as not to dominate the discussion, which was about anti-black racism. When he brought it up again, he was accused of trying to derail the conversation. DEI members justified the omission of anti-Semitism, the complaint says, by insisting that unlike other minority groups, Jews can hide behind their white identity. During the meeting, Albuquerque and Levin said they were subjected to anti-Jewish stereotypes, such as that Jews are wealthy and powerful business owners. After that meeting, Albuquerque decided he would no longer attend DEI seminars.
Oh, how good is that? That Jews can hide in their white identity. Did that work in the 30s and 40s? I'm not sure.
So Levin was still attending at this point, and the complaint alleges that during a seminar that Levin attended, participants lamented that the group was comprised of privileged people, such as white, pass for white, and Jewish people. That August, they notified Stanford's HR department about the hostile climate they were experiencing in the DEI program, and the HR department tried to facilitate a mediation session between the parties. Neither was satisfied with the outcome, and finally in fall of 2020, Levin stopped participating in the white affinity group as well because of the ongoing hostility she experienced on the basis of her race and her Jewish identity. Then on January 8th of this year, Levin was again subjected to a hostile environment when during a seminar for psychology students, the DEI program facilitator said the program would explore how Jews are connected to white supremacy.
And she had a problem with that?
And another DEI representative said she takes an anti-Zionist approach to social justice.
Oh, good. I don't understand why they were uncomfortable with this. I don't.
So the complaints come as Stanford grapples with other reports of anti-Jewish bias. The Hillel at Stanford director, Rabbi Jessica Kirshner, sent an email to her mailing list describing an alarming amount of online and in-person violence stemming from the anti-Israel animosity in the midst of the violence in Israel and Gaza. One Jewish student was told, "Don't talk to me if you're Jewish," while another was told by a classmate, "I'm not going to talk to you, Nazi." So... Here we go. So they want Stanford to take concrete steps to eliminate the anti-Jewish environment at Stanford. I can't see how they can get this train off the tracks where it's going, because it seems to me that they've already opted everybody into this.
Right.
Which essentially has told all the Jewish people that they're all Nazis now. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. And I mean,
Which,
if you, I mean, and this is an ideology that places value based on physical traits. And so if you're looking at somebody as lesser than, and they're infringing on you, then they must be stifled, moved, or silenced in whatever way that is. So that's, and of course, this is Stanford. So they'll be pumping hundreds of thousands of little students into big tech all around the world. And then those people will then make the decisions as to who needs to be drilled down on a little bit further, who needs to be silenced, who needs to be whatever. This is just, I mean, I don't know what you want to say. If you're treating people differently based on race, then that is, I think, racism. And so this is what you're doing. You're saying that some people based on race are better than others.
Right.
And you're separating people by race, which I believe is segregation. And it's all very creepy. It's bad news, and historically always leads to bad ends.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing their hand, really, when you look at these like anti-critical race theory bills that states are passing. Texas just passed one, and they're really, really mad about it. They're saying, like, how can we be making Juneteenth a national holiday when we're not even allowed to teach kids what Juneteenth is? Spoiler alert, the bill doesn't stop anybody from teaching kids what Juneteenth is. As a matter of fact, the bill in Texas includes a number of things that students have to be taught about, including the Underground Railroad, slavery. They have to read a bunch of things by Frederick Douglass. They have to, I mean, there's like a huge list of things. They have to know who Sally Hemings is. Sally Hemings' name is in the bill that they have to know about that. Like, it includes so much stuff about race, racism, slavery, segregation. All these things are included in the bill that kids have to be taught them. But what the bill doesn't allow is it doesn't allow students to be taught that one race is better than another, basically. So students are not required to engage in anything that presents any form of race or sex stereotyping blame on the basis of race. That one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. You would think that would be non-controversial, that students shouldn't be allowed to be taught that one race is inherently better than another. That any individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. You can't teach kids that. That seems
So you
good to
can't
me.
teach people that whiteness is terrible?
In Texas, no, you cannot. You cannot teach kids that on the basis of race, they're inherently oppressive or racist. You can't teach them that an individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of the individual's race. You shouldn't be able to teach them that members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. That an individual's moral character, standing, or worth is necessarily determined by the individual's race or sex.
So they're forcing people to be relatively decent.
They're forcing the schools to not teach kids that one race is better morally or whatever than another race.
So they're okay. So they're supposed to have, they're supposed to conduct themselves with a level of civility on the job.
Right. You're not supposed to teach kids that an individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of distress on account of their race or sex. That you're not allowed to teach them that meritocracy.
How are you supposed to yell at them for being dirty white oppressors then?
I don't know. You're also not allowed to teach them that the meritocracy and traits such as a hard work ethic were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of other races.
This goes directly against Ibram Kendi, directly against who wrote the 1619 Project?
Nicole Hannah-Jones.
Right. Yeah. This is not going to. This is problematic. My God, Texas not jumping full into the insane end of the pool is.
So basically, you're not allowed to tell them there was ever slavery. It was my takeaway from that.
Right. It's erasure, Alice. It's large scale erasure. of black people.
It seems to me that seems like pretty common sense. I'm like shocked that in this day and age we actually have to even have a bill that says you can't tell the kids in the school classroom that one of their races is better than another one. But, you know, I guess that's where we are now, that we have to write that into law.
So this is problematic, Alice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dang. Hold on. I got to sign up. Pretend I'm doing something here. Hold on.
You got to pretend you're doing something here?
No,
what's problematic?
I got to join a virtual room here. Hold on. No, can you fill for a second?
Sure. What do you mean you have to join a virtual room?
I have to attend a virtual seminar right now.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter.
I didn't know that you had a virtual seminar in the middle of our show today, or I would have planned. You should have done it when I was
didn't
reading
know
you
either.
all my things.
Somebody asked me to, but I'm just going to sign up for it and not listen to it.
Oh, okay.
See how I do this?
Okay,
Come
but
on.
yeah, but I just.
So wait, so can you tether this to why you're not, and you're going to be probably in a bikini tomorrow, if not the next day, why you're not allowed to lie out in your bikini?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not allowed to lie out in my bikini because tanning actually is racist, because that's appropriating black traits in order to make myself attractive when I haven't really experienced the pain and suffering of being black. I mean, I don't really understand when all this happened, because when I was a kid, people still like went to Jamaica and came back with braids. But I think you can't do that anymore. Is that right? That's not allowed. But not only can you not like do braids, you can't even.
It's Jamaicans who
are doing the. I know, but I mean, like, I don't think you can come back to America and wear your hair in cornrows now, right?
You can't come back to America with it.
Yeah.
But Jamaicans get to decide what happens in other places. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to sign up for this dang seminar.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that a lot of times people in other countries think that this stuff is fine. Like, people in Japan think it's cool when someone in America wears a kimono, but like, it's not cool with social justice people in America. That, you know, if a white model wears a kimono in a magazine photo, that they have a problem with it, even if like the Japanese people who were involved in the photo shoot in Japan said it was fine. So like, I think if you go to Jamaica now, you're not allowed to get your hair done in cornrows and then come back to the US, right? So, but now that's extended even like to tanning. And so this is the new thing, is that white people are supposed to watch and make sure they don't get too tan, because it could look like, you know, they're trying to get into something that black people made cool. But
so let's play this know-it-all named Allegra Leggy Legs on TikTok.
Hey, it's that time of year again where white people can't wait to get really tan. And Latinos también, bronceaditos, quemaditos. If you're a white person, you can't wait to get super tan, and you can't say Black Lives Matter, and you're not an ally, and you can't stand for your Black, brown, indigenous, people of color, friends, and family, then do everyone a favor, and tanning is not for you. So, thank you.
So there you go. This little know-it-all has decided that you're not allowed to tan, and because it's blackfishing.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, and then I'm looking at Beauty Crew magazine here. Blackfishing is a problem. Blackfishing, firstly, should not be confused with blackface. Blackfishing is a relatively new concept, at least the dialogue around it is anyway, and does not mean exactly it does not exactly mean to necessarily mock qualities of BIPOC people, but rather seeks to emulate those identifiers, which seems to me is kind of a tribute. Well, many argue, this is her talking, many argue that it's a good thing that these stereotypically black features are being celebrated and coveted. The issue with blackfishing is that it is white women who are being celebrated, and white women who are capitalizing on these traits. White women who have never had to experience the racism and daily injustices that black women have endured. So, what's happening is, if you, Alice, when your lovely person is laying out in the next couple of days in your bikini, which we're going to put up on our social media, by the way. Is that the problem is this, is that you get the benefits of having your skin get darker, being bronzed or whatever, which looks lovely, but you haven't paid your dues to earn those benefits.
By suffering racism.
Right. So you get to have being a white girl, which means everything always handed to you free and all the things stuff free and the secret white person memo that goes around that makes sure that you always get everything better than everybody else. The white supremacy newsletter. But you haven't felt the sharp fangs of racism.
Yeah.
So my question is this. I get darker in the summer, my arms, and obviously I would never take my shirt off in North America. But so it just by being outside and mowing the lawn, etc. So am I then blackfishing unbeknownst to me? Because my face gets darker. I look a little darker. I certainly look a little better.
Well, she does say more tan than you naturally would be, right? So I think that if it's just incidental in the course of mowing the lawn, but if you actually seek out trying to be darker because you think it looks better, then that's when you have to question your motivations and do some more of the work to really understand how that's actually a white supremacist viewpoint. That's when you need to do a little self-interrogation. And
so Ariana Grande is one of these people. She's accused of blackfishing all the time. And I actually thought she was black until today.
Or
I read
Hispanic or something, yeah.
Yep. And this is my Substack. We talk about this, by the way. Feel free to follow. But I thought she was black. So so why is that bad that I thought she was black?
Because she's doing these things that black people made cool, but she's getting the financial benefit who's a white person. It's there are examples of this that I think are sort of legitimate, and you probably know this because you know more music history, but there was a whole thing in early rock and roll where white musicians would cover black musicians' songs and the white version would be way more successful because it was cooler to be the white version. Right. And so it's that idea, but extended to everything. Right. Is that white people are doing stuff. It's Eminem, basically. Right. It's white people weren't listening to rap by black artists, but this white person basically, but not as many as listened to Eminem. Right. So white people weren't listening to as much rap by black artists, but then Eminem did it and it was mainstream and everybody listened to Eminem and he made tons of money doing something that was essentially a unique black art form and people weren't doing it supporting black artists, which I think is a BS because frankly I think that got a lot of people into rap who then listened to a bunch of other rappers and did support black artists then after that point. And it's really, I think this attitude, I don't think Eminem could exist today in this environment, first of all, because you see what happened to Iggy Azalea. She got totally called out for this. She's an Australian singer that was doing very black sounding music, and it was cool for a minute, but then people decided it was cultural appropriation and bad. But so I think that you couldn't have Eminem now, but I think that it was much better what we had back in the early 2000s when this was considered cool, that there was this cultural mixing happening where, white people could do black things and black people could do white things. And it wasn't oh my goodness, no, stay in your lane. That's not your culture. You're appropriating it and you're, making money off of things that aren't your people's culture. And that's not okay. That's, that I think is a backwards attitude and a backwards way of looking at it. And I think it's very unique to our society. Like I said, I think Japanese people in Japan think it's very cool when American people are into their culture and want to learn about it and take on pieces of it and try and do things with them. I think that it's only like this select group of activists in the United States who have a problem with people, getting to fuse their cultures across the world.
It's also no damn fun, and it's never ending.
Right.
If you're called cultural appropriation something harmful, first of all, I don't believe you're freaking hurt. I don't believe it.
Well, they're saying that somebody's hurt because, like, if it hadn't been you, it would have been a black person. Like, if it hadn't been Ariana Grande, then there would have been a black person singing that music who would have had that success and that fame. But instead, she just like puts on the costume of the cool parts of being black and she gets the success and the fame. That would be their argument, is that who's hurt is like the potential black artist that doesn't exist now. But it's a very limited view because it views the pie as essentially being finite, right? And so like if a white person has success, then that like takes away from some other imaginary black person's success, right? Whereas like any black person who wants to can still go out and make music and do stuff and become famous too. You don't have to make Ariana Grande disappear in order to have a black person have success. And I think that it's not only incorrect about the way the universe works, that like I said about Eminem, like I think it got more people into rap and hip hop who wouldn't have necessarily been into that and then did go listen to black artists. Like it's not a zero-sum game here. One person can be successful without it hurting somebody else, right?
Yes, it's just petty and it's illogical completely.
It's petty and it's illogical.
The idea that there's a finite number of successes, and what a thing to tell someone. God damn it.
It is what a thing to tell somebody. Like,
yes.
Ariana Grande should get out of the way so a black person can be successful.
Well, but also, I'm sorry, you can't do it because the white girl with the tan already did it.
Right.
And took that one. So you can't have this success because, I mean, first of all, tell that to all of these success stories in pop music, rock and roll, entertainment, sports, politics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm sorry, Barack Obama, you can't be president because Bill Clinton took it. It's
weirdly paternalistic and it's incorrect. And
it's defeatist. It's like, really? You're going to give a flying bleep? Mm-hmm. God. And you know what? So, how about worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, yeah. What if it is cultural appropriation? That's right. You got an office party full of drunk people dressed like mariachis who don't live that life, who get to not be mariachis, after they stumble home, and they don't have to live the life of struggling musicians in Mexico, whatever. And so it's kind of unfair that they get the glory of being having the visage of a mariachi person without having to put the work in to live that life for real. Too effing bad.
I mean, what about the Irish?
Who cares about any of this?
People have been culturally appropriating Irishness every St. Patrick's Day for decades now, and none of them have suffered as the Irish suffered, right? And I know we're not allowed to compare the Irish to the suffering of other ethnic groups.
Well, the Irish were genocided a little bit as well, Alice.
Since they're white passing now, we're not allowed to compare their suffering. Right. But, I think that the Irish are better off in America because this was not a thing then. Because I think that if the Irish 50 years ago had been saying, you can't appropriate Irish culture, get rid of the Celtics logo, nobody can celebrate St. Patrick's Day, don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day, have you been through the potato famine? Then, I think that the Irish would have been way worse off in America. I think the Irish are where they are because nobody did that and created this weird pathology around Irishness that people are trying to create now around blackness or.
But then again, Alice, what we found from Stanford is there's no such thing as Irishness.
Oh yeah, they're just white.
They're white. Exactly. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as Jewishness. There are no backstories to anybody else.
Swastikas don't have anything to do with Jewishness, actually. They only have to do with white supremacy, which means anti-blackness. Swastikas are anti-black and have nothing to do with anti-Semitism. So,
right.
I mean, That, to me, that was like the most insane take out of the whole thing was swastikas don't mean anti-Semitism, they mean anti-blackness, and we can't let you and your Jewish superiority try and take over the message about anti-blackness. Like,
I'll tell you,
what?
there's I forgot who it was. I think it was Rich Lowry talking about John Podhoretz. I think it was no, or maybe Jonah Goldberg, a Jewish famous, very well known Jewish thinker and writer.
Right.
And in the discussion was that these Jewish, the Jewish people have this innate sense of burgeoning authoritarianism. And they get it because literally it was passed on directly from somebody who lived and breathed it.
Right. And this has happened to Jewish people a lot.
Oh, yes. Oh,
in
absolutely.
human history. So
absolutely.
they have definitely a sixth sense about like when this is coming.
Right. But most recently, certainly with the Holocaust and really
Absolutely.
with in the Soviet Union, really. And so Rich Lowry said that he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that feeling of this fear, this cockeyed like view of burgeoning authoritarianism. And this is not a scientific thing, I guess, or maybe it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that makes sense that Lowry wouldn't have it. Not recently. His people came over on wooden boats, and you know it's not a built-in device that his people have needed in generations.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I had a Jewish friend tell me this one time, almost exactly what you said. They said like whenever the bleep is about to hit the fan in a country, like the Jewish people always notice first because people always come for them. They always end up taking some of the blame, whatever else about the ideology. It always has an anti-Semitism factor built into it. So from long and hard-earned experience, a lot of Jewish people do have this danger sense about movements like this.
You're absolutely right about that. You're right. Larger movements, darker movements in history the little embers begin with scapegoating of Jews.
But I mean, like, even look at the American political spectrum. You have anti-Semitism on the far right and on the far left. You have Ilhan Omar and you have Richard Spencer. Only one of those people is in Congress, which is interesting. But, I mean, there's anti-Semitism on both ends of the political spectrum for sure. And if we had any kind of coup in America coming from any political ideology, I can guarantee you they probably would have a problem.
But don't worry, your media is following it. Here's CNN's breaking news. Breaking news. President Biden strikes an optimistic and realistic tone.
Aww.
After high-stakes talks with Putin.
Amazing.
Says months ahead will be a test. He struck an optimistic and realistic tone.
Optimistic and realistic.
Yeah. Here's your news coverage for you. So I have to shove off. We've got to shove off soon, Alice. So coming up, we will be on the road tomorrow, an undisclosed location, where we will do a show tomorrow. And there will be a 1570 project as well in the
Friday,
works.
yep.
Friday.
Also done remotely.
Yes, and we'll be on Locals documenting our trip.
And Saturday, Murder on the Millennial Express drops. So.
Ooh, I can't wait.
So lots of excitement.
Speaking of that's going to be very tough for your sister, Jane Nolan. She's a big tan person.
Yeah.
Those days are over, Jane. Welcome to the milky white world of your
all real allies show
yeah, I don't know sure
wear their whiteness as a veil of shame. Anyway, you can follow us on Twitter to be updated on all these things that are going on. That is at Burn Barrel Pod. We're also at burnbarrelpodcast.com. Facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast. You can send us an email, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube. Leave a comment there. You can watch the video version of the podcast, any of those things. Also, if you get a chance, leave us an Apple review. That's always good, too. Thank you so much, everybody.